Have you ever noticed there are times where you think one thing, you feel another, and then you do something completely different? That inner split isn't random. It's actually structural. And understanding it might be the key to mastering yourself. Now, the way that the human mind works, like the basis for all human cognition, is there is something called a Trinity of consciousness. That's what I call it, at least. And those three would be, let's get those up here: thinking, feeling, and finally, willing. Alright, we have all of them down. Now, this is how we kind of operate. This is how consciousness operates. We use all three of these in conjunction. We used to use them all together subconsciously. However, now, in order to become more of an individual, people have started to separate each one more and more. However, the goal will be to use all three of them, not in an unconscious way, but using them consciously. There we go. That's the goal. And you want all of them to kind of connect with each other. Boom. Boom, boom. Now, we used to do that subconsciously, and we used to think, feel, and will all together at once. But that needed to be separated in order for us to be free. We needed to understand what it means to think separately, to feel separately, to will separately, in order to start using all three of them consciously together. We gained individuality through that, freedom, and the ability to self-reflect better. But we gave up that unity that we used to have. So, in order to understand the bigger concept here, we need to know what each one is, right? So, we'll start off with thinking. Alright, we're going to move this one up a little bit. Alright, thinking. What is thinking? So, it's basically, thinking is knowing, and the act of it, the act of knowing. So, thinking, let's just put this down here, is knowing. Right. Boom. Thinking is knowing, the act of knowing, pondering on the perceptual senses that we receive throughout the world. Is the act of building basically like a mental model of what reality is. And it gives the ideas that you make about those mental models clarity. It's a distinction between those two ideas and the boundaries of what not to cross. So it basically forms like a little house for yourself. Like, should I step out here? Is this my territory? Is this my neighbor's? This is where I should go, where I shouldn't go. It builds that house thinking. So basically, anything outside of this house that you build, so you know what, we could probably build a little house here. Alright, so our house is going to be quite simple. Boom, square. Nice. And we'll give it a little triangle on top. Oh. Alright. Nice. This is our house. Now, anything outside of the house on either side feels kind of foreign to us. This is our home. This is what we're comfortable with. This is that thinking, right? Thinking is knowing. So we're just going to do this. There you go. Thinking and knowing. Everything, however, that is outside of this is foreign to us. Foreign, it's scary, we don't want to even use the time to understand it, because it's a lot of effort to understand what is foreign, to expand this house, right? That's a lot of work. Now, most thinking is, out of the three that we mentioned, thinking, feeling, willing, thinking is the most conscious one. We could observe our thinking the most, we could reflect on it, we could change it the most. And therefore, that is the one that we want to start working on first in order to change. If we want to change ourselves, we need to change our thinking, right? Now, the way to do it we'll go over later. However, if you think, we need all three of them together, right? So if you think without feeling, well, you could probably imagine what that is. It's cold, calculated, unemotional, reductionist. Everything is a concept to them. Nothing is alive, you know? It's a very dead concept. Now, thinking without willing is, well, it's a lot of overthinking. It's those people that never act. That is thinking without feeling, or without willing. So you need all three for a certain reason, all right? All right. Now, what would our goal be with thinking? It would be to take what we learned from subconscious thinking and use it to become more conscious with our thinking, but still uniting thinking with the other two. We want to spiritualize it without removing the clearness of thinking. So in order for you to think properly, thinking must be, what does thinking, you guys could think while I'm doing this. What do you think thinking should be? It needs to be clear. Your mind needs to be clear. Clear mind. Let's put that all together, right? In order to think properly, you need to have a clear mind. In order to think consciously, you need to have a clear mind. When you're stressed out, you're running around everywhere, you're busy, you don't have the time to really understand what's happening, to take in the view, to observe something fully. That's why people meditate. That's why that's why they need a clear mind, right? That's why people do all these things in order to gain clarity. And once you gain this clear mind, that's the first step into developing full consciousness. Now, we're going to move on from thinking. All right, we're going to take feeling. We're going to move it away. It's going to be our feeling. Further, maybe. All right, nice. This is it. So, same thing as last time. What is feeling? Let's first try to define it, get a concept of what it is. Feeling is the thing you do to give value. It's like the juiciness of the thinking, right? That's why when you are able to give feeling to thoughts, you remember them a lot better because they have that flavor. When you're just thinking about stuff, you'll forget it because your mind is meant to kind of filter out the garbage. So let's just do can I make a plus sign here? Thinking. Okay, it might just be, I think I could do, hold on. Thinking plus thinking equals to remembering. All right. General equation right here. Because the feeling right here gives juice to the thoughts that you make, which makes you remember them better, right? So feeling is giving value to things. And that's why it's hard to force feelings. It's a little less conscious than thinking. Thinking is the most conscious. Feeling, you could still, I guess, meditate over feeling, try to understand it better and observe it, but it's not as conscious of an action as thinking. Now I'm gonna remove this because I don't want you guys to get confused with what I've got going on here. Delete. So we're gonna keep feeling in the middle. Now, feeling is also the way that you relate to other people, because you have this feeling and this feeling is yours, it is special, will make your feeling green, you're going to be green. So your feeling is this, and feeling, someone else's feeling will be, let's say, red. So you guys don't really mesh together because he has a different feeling than, or like this person has a different feeling than this person, right? They don't mash. But when you relate to someone, right, they also have, you could relate to people through that same feeling. You guys both went through same hardships. You guys both went, that's bonding. That's how you get to know someone a little better. By what type of feelings they've experienced, right? Now, we're gonna delete this one again, actually. Yeah, I think you guys get it. Now, feeling also shows to yourself, when you reflect on it, what really matters to you. Because if you allow your feelings to just flow, you'll see what gives you a stronger feeling. So if you're ever struggling with finding out what you want, what it, blah, 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 a lot of people, especially those who are stronger in their feelings and their intuition, tend to do what feels right. What is their strongest feeling? That's how they decide the direction. Now, people who feel are often in tune with, because of what I just said, what they love, like, or dislike, they resonate with because they feel stronger about it. And now, how do I say? Let's put this up here. Feeling is like thinking is up here. Willing is down here. And feeling is like the mediator between them. Thinking wants to go up. Thinking is like, boom, I want to go up here. Feeling, willing's like down here. And they're both getting pulled together by feeling. This is kind of how it works. It's the mediator in between them. Now, healthy feeling should be full of gratitude, reverence, and a lot of empathy towards other people. It should be pure feeling, but it should be one that's not instinctual. It should be conscious, because you could make yourself feel different things. So you are also in control of what you feel. If you consciously if you use conscious effort to look outside, observe beauty, take a minute for yourself, your feelings will change. A lot of time the way that you think will impact what you feel. You are what you think. I'm sure you've heard of that before. You are what you think. This is why. Because you think something, you're thinking a lot, you start to develop feelings about those things that you think about, and those feelings inevitably end up becoming what you do. That's what they mean by you are what you think. Now, if you separate feeling without thinking, so let's say we cut this part off. This part is no longer here. You just have feeling and willing. Now, what would that lead to? Well, if you separate it, it's often more of a sentimental person. You tend to be a little bit more emotional, like emotionally manipulative. Your feelings and willing, but you don't have a healthy thinking process, right? So without a healthy thinking process, you just feel and do, but there's no real cognition going on behind these two. There's no spark, no thinking. Now, if it's the opposite way around, can I do this? Yeah, nice. I'm gonna delete this. We remove willing, thinking, and feeling. So what is that kind of person? That person's probably storing those feelings up a lot in their brain, huh? Now, you're just pent up with emotions here, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and at some point, boom, you explode. This is red, signifying that. And there's usually no outlet for them. That's the problem, right? Because when you have pent-up emotions, what happens? You want to explode. You can't release those emotions because you have no will. There's no willing part to what you're doing. You're just thinking and you're just feeling. So what happens? At some point, no will over time ends up in one explosive action, and then you regret that action, and then you are scared even more to act because you have a bad experience of acting or willing. Now, we're going to go over the last one. So I'm just going to get rid of this. Boom. Boom. Willing. Alright, will. You could probably guess what this one is. Will, it just puts everything we just talked to into motion. This is how you stamp yourself into reality, because everything is in your head up until you will it. This is an essential part, but it's the most unconscious, because the process all starts at thinking, then feeling, and the willing part is just a byproduct. The willing is a byproduct of the other two. It's the least conscious. Because it's like how manifestation works, where you must think about it, feel it, and you will naturally start to will. Every single person that talks about manifestation will tell you those things. You need to think subconsciously often. Use your subconscious. Think about it. You need to feel what it's like to be that, and you will naturally start to will towards your goal. Right? Now, how you create what you think about into real world doing is, I guess, it's the key quality of will. It is a strong wanting to do something. A person that's often strong in their willing is someone that will ask, what do I need to do to change something? That's a willing type of person, is concentrated on how to get what I want. Now, like we said about the manifestation, it's all about keeping your eye on the end goal. Right, so you have willing, so you have I'm just going to put T, and I'm going to put F, thinking, feeling, so you have T, you have F, you have this, and each one kind of leads into the next, right? So if you think, you feel, you will, you're going to start naturally to progress yourself. You're going to start moving subconsciously towards that end goal. Now, it's about keeping, this is that mental picture of what it is. This whole thing, you never think do not think about how to get to this. You think you are this end goal. You do not think about how to get to it. You will think that you are this, and you will naturally start to do this stuff already. If you think you are this, and you feel you are this, you will already naturally start to do everything you need to do this. This is what I mean by willing is the most unconscious of the three. It's the most, least conscious. Now, willing is often linked to kind of the body, how it moves, its habits, reactions. Now, sometimes you might catch yourself thinking one thing, feeling another, and then finally, like we said at the beginning, doing something else. That is when thinking is, it's not aligned with the other two. There's no, thinking is like over here, willing is like here, get rid of this one, and then this one is like here. Now, this is what most people operate as. What our goal is to realign through conscious effort all three of these processes so that you could get to your end goal, whatever that is. And our goal is to do that consciously, right? So if you separate them, thinking types, you've probably seen them. They are very intelligent, however they struggle with socializing, empathizing with other people. They are strong in their thinking, right? Okay, you know what, let's just make new thinking, feeling, and willing. I've been typing this a lot. Now, someone who is very strong in their thinking is going to be, like I said, kind of like a nerd, just to put it lightly. It's like very smart, intelligent person, but doesn't have the social capacities of other people. Very objective a lot of the time, and just can't relate to other people as much. Now, feeling types are a little different. Feeling is, let's make feeling yellow. Yellow is not visible. Alright, let's make it orange. Sure. Now, feeling is people who are very overly dependent on their feeling, or very emotional, lack clarity of thought, and don't put in as much action into their into what they do. They oftentimes they have pent-up emotions in them. The feeling types sometimes that having no outlet leads to a lot of aggression, as well. You become a very sensitive person. Now, will is for, let's make willing blue. Sure, we'll make willing blue. I'm gonna make this one green. I like green. Alright, nice. Now, will. What is will? These are not equal circles. Whatever. Willing is essentially a person that is strong in their willing does a lot of unconscious actions, right? Because if you're not using your thinking and you're not using your feeling, you're going to be making a lot of decisions unconsciously. You're going to be doing a lot of things and you're like, oh, why did I do that? I don't know, maybe because you didn't think. You didn't feel what was right in that moment. Maybe you use these two only and you don't really feel a lot, so you're not able to make the right decision because you're constantly making the best decision. For example, the safest decision, whatever you think is the best without taking into consideration how someone else will feel. Not saying don't do what you think is best, but something to keep in mind, let's say. Now, the point is to create kind of like an overlap of the three, right? So you want a bit of feeling, you want overlap zones. I don't know, did I make that right? Yeah, this is good enough. Alright. I feel like feeling is a little... Alright, nice. You want kind of an overlap. You want them working consciously together. The whole point is that this needs to all be conscious. All of this needs to be doing this. This one purple. You need to do all of this stuff consciously. You need to take time with your thinking, analyze it, sit back, take time with your willing, and take time with your feeling. Now, how do we do that? Well, you need to practice, like anything else. So, for thinking, you should... How did we say that we develop good thinking? Well, clear mind. Try to do stuff to clear your mind. Go on walks. Try meditation. Sitting with your thoughts. Letting them flow in and flow out. Don't stop the thinking. Just allow it to be. Going on a walk. Don't have to necessarily play music. You could just take off the headphones and walk. Nature walks are very nice. Now, it needs to be clear and mindful thinking, not filled with feeling emotions or wanting to do something, just thinking. As pure as you can get. Now, for feelings, you want to try to question your feelings. You want to ask, why am I feeling this? Why is my feeling right now, for example, love or lust? Is it... What kind of feeling? Try to get to the bottom of what you're feeling. You need to be conscious about what it is that you are feeling. You need to be thinking about it. And these things seem simple, but if you really look at it, you're probably not doing it too much. You actually sit back and look at it, you're going to realize, oh wait, maybe I'm not actually that deep into it. Now, you want to try to develop positive feelings of like gratitude, of inner stillness, which will help out the first one as well. And you want to create an alignment between thinking and feeling in order to then align the will. Now, how do you, once you get those two down, what do you do? Well, you want to try to think, you want to always ask yourself this throughout the day. Just take a moment to ask yourself, what would the higher, let's just all caps, higher me do? In any situation that you find yourself in, not you, the you that you want to be, that would be that end goal. What would the higher you do in this situation? Would the higher you be thinking this way? Would the higher you be feeling this way? If not, why are you feeling this way? Why aren't you feeling like the higher you? Now, you wanna ask yourself this throughout the day. When you catch yourself slipping on one of these, just kind of recenter yourself, let's say. Now, feeling is very important in this chain because it's kind of the, like we said, the in-between between willing and thinking. Feeling holds them together, and it's kind of like the battleground. If you win over your feelings, you will naturally win over thinking and willing. So you need to make the process of whatever you're doing feel good, because if you don't, this is just going to be gray. All of it's going to be one color, and it's going to be boring, and it's going to be not what you want, let's just say. Now, for all that being said, this is what we call the Trinity of consciousness. And I hope that you've learned something about these three. So I implore you to do some of those exercises while you can. And I will leave you with a quote I think we've all heard. Real knowledge begins at self-discovery. And Socrates says, know thyself. Know thyself, people. Alright, this has already been long enough. Thank you.